Welcome to this Wood Solutions overview of AS 3959, Constructions of Buildings in Bushfire-Prone Areas. With Australia's long history of loss of life and building damage from bushfires, the National Construction Code requires that buildings constructed in designated bushfire-prone areas must comply with AS 3959, Construction of Buildings in Bushfire-Prone Areas. The design objectives of AS 3959 are that the finished building should be able to, firstly, withstand ember attack prior to the fire front with assistance from the occupants, and then provide a safe refuge for the occupants while the fire front passes. After the front passes, occupants should be able then to extinguish any elements that are still burning around the building. There is a three-step process for design of timber elements under the standard. Step 1 is to determine the site's bushfire attack level, or BAL. Usually a trained assessor is required for this. Step 2 is to comply with the restrictions on building envelope elements for the design BAL. And step 3 is to choose the correct timbers for the required element performance. Let's look at each of these steps in turn. Step 1 is determining the BAL for the site. The bushfire attack level, or BAL, indicates the likely maximum radiant heat on the building exterior in a fire front, and it is expressed in kilowatts per metre squared. A qualified assessor usually determines the BAL after considering the fire danger index for the area, the type of vegetation near the site, and the distance between the site and the vegetation, and lastly, the slope of the land under the vegetation, because that affects how fast the fire moves. This table shows the BAL levels listed in the standard and the exposure each one represents. For example, a house on a site with a BAL rating of 29 is at a high risk of catching fire for embers, burning degree and significant radiant heat in a bushfire. Step 2 is complying with the restrictions on envelope elements for the designated BAL level. The standard focuses on external elements of the building, those exposed to embers or heat from the bushfire. It doesn't restrict the materials used internally. Specific requirements exist for the building subfloors, both open and enclosed, stairs, decks and ramps, external wall surfaces. For walls, the standard pays particular attention to wall surfaces less than 400 millimetres above a horizontal external surface, where wind-blown embers may collect. There are different requirements for wall surfaces more than 400 millimetres above a horizontal surface. The standard also has specific requirements for external windows and doors, including the glazing, window frames and any fire shutters, and lastly for areas in the roof, such as the roof surface, the soffites, the eaves, the fascias and the gutters. The restrictions imposed on elements increases with the BAL level. This table provides general guidance on how this occurs. What is obvious is that the requirements for BAL 40 and BAL flame zone, or FZ, are highly specific and demanding. Step 3 in the process is to choose the correct timbers for elements in the designated BAL level. These are listed in the standard, and this process is covered in a separate presentation. So, in summary, the NCC requires compliance with AS 3959 when buildings are being designed for construction in bushfire-prone areas. AS 3959, Construction of Buildings in Bushfire Areas, defines bushfire attack levels, establishes requirements for external elements to prevent the building catching fire from embers and fire front radiation, and lastly it lists the timbers suitable for particular external elements. Wood solution guides are available. Wood Solution Design Guide 4 covers timber design for AS 3959, construction of buildings in bushfire-prone areas.